So Jabra or Philips? You'll thank me for this later. The Jabra Enhance Pro 20 was recently launched in Costco's hearing aid centers in the US and is exclusively available throughout their outlets. These hearing aids are ridden with technology, some features of which, I have to tell you now, significantly outweigh Costco's other offering, the Philips HearLink Series. So the plan today is for me to expand on these two models available in Costco, to explain if they're suitable for you and your hearing loss, and more importantly, what I love and even what I dislike about them. At the time of making this video, the Jabra Enhance Pro 20 costs an incredible $1,599.99 at Costco's hearing aid centers, which, yes, is $100 more expensive than the Philips HearLinks, but later on I'll discuss whether or not I think that it's worth paying the difference. Now, the price can vary depending on the state that you're in. However, it doesn't just include the hearing aids, but also a premium charger, a 3-year warranty, plus 2 years loss and damage protection, and also a whopping 6-month trial period. To be honest, everything on this list makes perfect sense to me apart from the 6-month trial period. And I echoed the same sentiments in my recent Philips 9040 review as well, which if you haven't seen, check it out on our YouTube channel. In my opinion, the hearing aid dispenser that you're working with should be looking for alternative technology way before 6 months if you're having to go back and forth for adjustments. Now, it just shouldn't take that long for either you to get used to the hearing aids or for them to get the best out of these hearing aids for you. Now, before I get into the juicy details, it's also worth noting that you need to be a Costco member to be able to buy them, which will set you back around about $60 per year. For those of you unfamiliar with the setup at Costco, it's also worth noting that Costco not only focus on traditional hearing aids, such as those that I'm expanding on today, but they also have a wide selection of over-the-counter hearing aids. Here are the results of a recent poll from the Hearing Tracker YouTube channel that I put out there to find out what you guys at home were wearing. Wait, maybe I should rephrase that. To find out which hearing aids you guys were wearing. Let's see if that makes the edit. Whilst traditional hearing aids came out on top, I was actually delighted to see that over-the-counter hearing aids are starting to have an impact. And you guys are actually wearing them. So I would love to know about you folks watching today. Which style of hearing aid are you wearing? Is it an OTC hearing aid? Is it a receiver in canal hearing aid? Is it in the ear or behind the ear? Let me know in the comments beneath this video. Now, as with all of my tech review videos, I'll run through the physical tour of these hearing aids, and then we can take a good look at the technology that's inside. As I mentioned before, there are 2 styles of hearing aids available in Jabra's current selection. The Jabra Enhance Pro 20 RIE13 uses a size 13 disposable battery, which will need changing roughly once per week, and has a built-in telecoil. And then we have the Micro RIE, which is Jabra's smallest and most comfortable rechargeable hearing aid to date, coming in at 25% smaller than their standard receiver in canal hearing aids, with a single charge giving you 24 hours of battery life. If cosmetics is high up on your list of priorities, then Jabra's Micro RIE is significantly smaller than the Philips HearLink, so it's well worth looking into. Each of the styles are available in 4 different colors, from sparkling silver to champagne, bronze, and deep black, which all sound absolutely glorious, like I'm in a Farrow and Ball shop choosing paint for my living room. These colors are designed to match different hair colors rather than being skin toned, and are all matted nowadays so they don't tend to catch the light. Taking you on a physical tour of the tech, you'll first of all notice the body of the hearing aid, which houses twin microphones here and here, and are specifically designed to maximize speech understanding in noise. As with all receiver and canal hearing aids, these are positioned in such a way to run horizontally and detect the sounds that are in front of you versus those that are behind you. You'll note here a push button on the Micro RIE and a multifunction button on the RIE13. Which are both soft keys and can be programmed with various functions, such as to change the volume or change to various manual programs depending on how your audiologist has programmed your hearing aids. With the rechargeable version, you'll also notice an LED in the center which indicates the charging status of your hearing aids. And then here you can see the receiver wire which rolls over the top of your ear and into your ear canal, connecting the hearing aid itself to the speaker which sits inside your ear canal. Not many people know this, but receiver and canal hearing aids can be physically customized by altering the tip on the end. and can be fitted using a selection of rubber domes or even with a custom ear mold on the end for an additional cost. This process would involve your hearing care provider taking an impression of your ear and normally takes around 2 weeks from start to finish. It's really down to the expertise of your hearing care provider to recommend the most appropriate setup for you. And believe it or not, the sound of a hearing aid will be completely transformed by changing this small yet incredibly important part. For example, it can affect both the clarity and sharpness your hearing aid will provide, how full and rich it will sound, how good it sounds when you're streaming from your phone, and most importantly, how well it copes in background noise. It's easy to think that the tip is just about comfort, but there's way more to think about when choosing the right setup for you. Not too long ago, hearing aids used to break down. A lot. A drop of sweat when exercising, or a particularly humid day, or even jumping into the shower by accident when you're wearing them, would mean that your hearing aids would need a trip back to the manufacturers to be repaired. And although the hearing aid manufacturers nowadays are pretty good when it comes to accidental damage, it still may have meant spending time without your hearing aids. So you'll be pleased to know that these hearing aids live up to the industry standard of an IP68 rating, and means that they can technically be submerged in 1.5 meters of water for 30 minutes and should still function afterwards. Now, hold on a second. I'm not suggesting going swimming wearing them, but this rating should ensure less breakdowns and more reliability. And let's face it, you want to be able to forget about wearing them and not having to shield them every time it starts raining outside. So that pretty much covers the physical side of things. So let's cover the unique features that the Jabra Enhance Pro 20s have built inside them. Starting with a pretty important question, are they suitable for you? The Jabra Enhance Pro 20s can technically be adapted to match various degrees of hearing loss, and the beauty of this is all in the design of a receiver in canal hearing aid. You see, with this style of hearing aid, it's possible to replace the speaker on the end, which determines the hearing aid's power and therefore the degree of hearing loss that it's capable of managing. Displayed on screen now, you'll notice that you can choose from either a low, moderate, high, or ultra-powered receiver, or even their unique Marie receiver, which I'll discuss in a second. If your hearing loss falls within the shaded area, then technically that power of receiver is suitable for you, as long as it's coupled to your ear with the appropriate style of tips that I was talking about earlier. So this is where it gets interesting. Aside from the standard receivers, which I mentioned earlier, the low, moderate, high, and ultra power, Jabra also have their own unique receiver called Marie, which stands for microphone and receiver in ear. Now, why is it so unique? Essentially, it has a third microphone built into it, which actually sits in your ear canal. Now, Jabra boasts that by having this extra microphone in the ear, which none of their other receivers have, nor do any other manufacturers have, the hearing aid takes into account the shape and size of your individual anatomy, which can have a significant impact on the sound quality. By adding a microphone in the ear canal as part of the receiver module, this takes advantage of your individual ear canal shape to collect sound the way that nature intended, giving a more immersive hearing experience with greater depth and sense of spatial awareness. This improves sound localization by about 15% when compared to their omnidirectional BTE microphones, and about 10% when compared to hearing aids that provide pinna compensation. Now, it sounds fantastic, but I will say from experience, you do have to be pretty careful with Marie receivers though, as they are more prone to feedback compared to conventional receivers. So if I fit them, I'm very selective about the type of hearing loss that I'll fit them with. However, if your hearing loss is mild to moderate, then they could potentially be a fantastic option for you. Now, before we get into how these hearing aids function in background noise, if you've made it this far, then you must be enjoying this content. So make sure you hit subscribe to be notified every time I review any new hearing aid technology. Jabra are incredibly proud of their latest innovation in these hearing aids, which is designed to help you cope in the likes of a noisy restaurant, and is mainly down to their 360-degree all-around feature. In fact, Jabra are boasting that these hearing aids will provide a 150% improvement in speech understanding in noise when compared to their previous technology, which is all down to their precise binaural beamforming. This advanced directional microphone strategy essentially means that the hearing aids are working together to focus in a forwardly direction, aiming to pick up sounds from in front of you and remove unwanted sounds from behind you or to the side of you. However, Jabra's secret is to still allow enough environmental sound in to make you feel connected with your environment and your surroundings. If you're interested in the details, this feature has seen 3 key developments in this generation of Jabra's technology. First of all, there is a new steering system with faster processing, therefore it reacts quicker to the environment around you. Secondly, it has an enhanced frequency specificity and a narrower directional response. And then finally, an improved ear-to-ear streaming system that helps to ensure audibility and awareness of all of your surroundings. I'll come on to the app in more detail later, but it's worth mentioning at this point that there's also a manual program called Front Focus that you can switch over to manually. This is intended to narrow the directional response, focusing more aggressively on exactly what's going on in front of you. Working in partnership with the 360-degree all-around feature is Jabra's Environmental Optimizer, which is designed to automatically make volume and noise reduction changes based on your specific environment, so that you don't have to. For example, if you spend 10 minutes walking along a quiet street with your partner on your arm discussing your day, the hearing aids will be in an omnidirectional mode, picking up the sound from all around you. As you arrive to a restaurant for dinner, the hearing aids will take a sample of your environment, which normally takes around about 4 seconds. They will then detect the fact that there is noise present and determine the most appropriate setting for you. Quite cleverly, they then gradually implement the most appropriate adjustment at such a slow rate, which is around 1 decibel per second, so that there's a nice and smooth transition. Have you ever walked into a train station and missed the announcements there? Or how about when you've arrived to a football game and you wish you could have heard the commentary more clearly? Or perhaps you've even been stood waiting for a coffee in Starbucks and not heard somebody calling your name from afar. Well, this incredible new wave of technology, which I am delighted to announce that Jabra have included within these hearing aids, is going to change the world forever. Not just for those of you out there with hearing loss, but for everybody. It's called LE Audio, standing for Low Energy Audio, and will allow for public venues to stream any sound with a higher quality and lower battery consumption than we've seen from any other streaming technology in the past, directly to your hearing aids. Now, Jabra aren't alone in installing this in their hearing tech, and I happen to have heard on the grapevine that all hearing aid manufacturers are currently working together to have this installed in their hearing aids. Yet at present, there are only a few of them that are ahead of the curve. And we're talking about ReSound, Signia, Oticon, and now Jabra. So in the next few years, I think that we'll start to see Auracast broadcasted audio replace the century-old loop systems built into public venues, and will allow for multiple hearing aid users to simultaneously connect to audio in public spaces. Now, the downside is that this is only as good as how many venues have it installed, and at the time of making this video, we're still in the development stage. However, I am pleased to announce that hearing aid manufacturers are readying their hearing aid technology for the rollout of Auracast transmission. Adding to that, I would like to say that I am delighted that Jabra haven't, as a result, ditched the telecoil yet, which is built into the RIE13 model. So until LE Audio and Auracast technology takes off, you'll still be able to access the loop system, which is essentially the 20th century version of LE Audio. So it allows for the streaming of sound in a public venue directly to both of your hearing aids, anywhere that you've seen this sign. And it can make a huge difference in the likes of the theatre, church, or any other public venue. Phone connectivity is possible in both of these Jabra hearing aids, which means that you can stream phone calls, music, and the radio or podcasts directly to both of your hearing aids. Plus, Jabra also have their own app, which allows for you to make manual adjustments to the settings on your hearing aids if you want to manually override the automatic settings. It's worth noting that the Jabra Enhance Pro 20s are only compatible with smartphones. So yes, they'll work with both iOS and Android devices, and it's not all of them at that. So it's worth checking out their compatibility checker over on the Jabra website to make sure that your phone is suitable. If it isn't, then you might want to consider either Phonak or Unitron, which use classic Bluetooth. So we're able to connect to any phone, smartphone or otherwise. Now, building on that, one feature that Jabra rave about in their paraphernalia is their ability to have truly hands-free phone calls, which incidentally is only possible with Apple iOS devices, and means that you can keep your phone in your pocket and you'll be able to hear the person on the other end of the phone speaking, and they'll also be able to hear you, as the microphones on your hearing aids will pick up your voice. In truth, yes, this feature's great, however, there are definitely some flaws, as this bidirectional Bluetooth isn't very selective at picking up the hearing aid user's speech. So if you're trying to take a call in a particularly noisy environment, the feedback that I've had from patients is that it picks up a lot of the sound of the environment around you, not making it difficult for you to be able to hear, but making it hard for the person on the other end of the phone to be able to hear. Now, I will say that the positive is that Jabra do allow the feature to be switched on or off, which incidentally I've covered in this video, and I'll add a link in the description to today's video. So personally, I would recommend having it switched off for most patients with all manufacturers when it's possible to do so. The Jabra Enhance Pro app is one of the most highest rated on the App Store due to its reliability and the flexibility that it gives you for adjusting the settings on your hearing aids. Not only can you adjust the volume and change programs, but you could also modify the noise reduction settings, and there's a basic graphic equalizer too, allowing you to adjust the bass, mids, and trebles for all of the sound around you. The app also has a Find My Hearing Aids feature, which will show you your lost hearing aid on a map the last time your phone and your hearing aids were together. And you know what? It works. I've had patients find their lost hearing aids as a result of utilizing this feature. On top of that, the app also tells you your battery life, which is definitely more accurate with the rechargeable version than with the battery version, and it has a remote adjust feature too, which means that if you can't make it to the clinic one day, your audiologist can be sat at their clinic and you can be sat in the comfort of your home having them make adjustments to the settings on your hearing aids. Both Starkey, Phonak, and Signia have had accelerometers built into their hearing aids for a few years now. Firstly, to identify whether you're either stationary or moving, adapting the direction of your hearing aid microphones accordingly. And then second of all, for a tap control feature, allowing you to answer phone calls or hang up by double tapping your ear. Jabra have now joined the party and built in their own accelerometers, however, only with the secondary function of the tap control. And it's also only available in the Micro RIE2 rather than the RIE13. So you'll now be able to answer your phone calls by tapping your ear rather than having to get your phone out of your pocket. Rechargeability is a given now, with the majority of you out there wearing rechargeable hearing aids. In fact, I recently did a poll on YouTube asking that exact question: are you a rechargeable hearing aid user or do you use a disposable battery? And these were the results in favor of rechargeability. With the Micro RIE, a single charge will give you a full day of battery life. And Jabra also include the premium charger with every hearing aid fitting, which also stores another 3 days worth of hearing aid charge. So if you decide to go camping for the weekend or somewhere that doesn't give you access to power, you can charge on the go. Saying that, according to the same poll, there is still a third of you out there in favor of the disposable battery option. So the RIE13 is perfect for you, and I would expect that battery to last around about a week before it needs changing. Most hearing aid manufacturers now have a wide range of accessories building on the benefits of wearing hearing aids, and Jabra are no exception to this. These range from their remote microphones, allowing for improved hearing in noise or at a distance, to their Phone Clip Plus, which allows for hands-free phone calls, whatever phone you have. Then Jabra have their remote controls if you don't wish to use the app. And then finally, the TV Streamer 2 streams the sound of the television directly to both of your ears and is a great addition to your toolbox if you're having trouble hearing the television. As you can see, the tech available at Costco is loaded with features and could well be the right option for you. I would love to hear your feedback in the comments if you've already been fitted with the Jabra Enhance Pro 20s. Now, you can't have completed your research unless you've seen this video, which covers Costco's other offerings.